Good afternoon. Day 4 at Cannes at Stagwell Sport Beach. I'm Chris Guilfoyle, the president of See Her, and I am delighted for my special guests to introduce themselves to you today before we get to the conversation.
Hi, I'm Michelle Froah. I'm the Global Chief Marketing and Innovation Officer at ETS.
And I'm Akbar Gbajabiamila, host of American Ninja Warrior and The Talk. I'm a former NFL player, and I'm excited to be here at Sports Beach.
Well, I'm excited for you both to be here, and what a great Cannes it has been. But let's jump right to it.
Okay.
Akbar,
Yes.
I'm going to start with you. Skills today and how we learn continue to evolve. Can you share how your experience as an athlete, an advocate, and a TV personality have impacted and what you see as the future of skill development?
Well, I think the future of skill development really comes down into really being able to tune in and hone in on how to find those in athletes or in people in general. Like, I remember for me as a former athlete, the one skill that I honed in on was being a good athlete. And I practiced over and over. The interest was there over and over again. Fast forward to the end of my NFL career, and there was a big void there. I went to school to San Diego State and studied communication, got my degree in communication and new media studies. I always knew I wanted to be a broadcaster, something that I truly, truly loved because I watched it and I saw it modeled, but I didn't have the skill set. And so I had to get training in the fire. And I'll tell you a quick story. I remember my first day on American Ninja Warrior, not knowing how to read a teleprompter, knowing how to do a stand-up, knowing how to operate with someone talking in my ear, and it was all of these different things that I had to understand how to listen, how to be part of the broadcast. And so it was really kind of trial by fire. And but I eventually learned it. But what if there was a way to see, hey, you've got an interest in this, let's start building the skill set now, even while you're doing something else.
Let's continue on that. What skills do people need to reinvent themselves? I would imagine for you now, those skills from a broadcast standpoint that you have to learn, they're second nature to you.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do people learn skills for that reinvention?
The 10,000 hour rules is something that we've heard over and over, but it really does come down to repetition. I remember when I first learned, going back to the teleprompter, I remember when I first learned how to do, okay, this is how you did, but I still needed the repetition to be comfortable to the point where you could throw up new material and I could breathe and not get nervous that I didn't know what was coming up next, or learning how to digest information quickly and turn it back, because sometimes you only have 20, 30 seconds in between you getting new information, so learning how to do those things. But I do think, to answer your question, I think it's first identifying the skills that you think you need in the area that you want to be in, and then going from there, because you can learn a bunch of skills and they can become useless. I see this with our school system. There's a lot of stuff that you go, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to. I haven't done a lot of science since I've graduated from high school. So
Algebra.
There's no algebra in my life right now.
Yeah. Well, then, Michelle, you absolutely are a specialist in the skills assessment. And I'm curious, what is the new currency when it comes to upward and economic mobility? Right? It's not algebra.
Yeah.
It might be.
Well,
depends
maybe
on what you're doing.
For someone, just not Akbar and I.
Yeah.
And what has changed about the world of work and technology today to warrant this new emphasis on skills?
Yeah. I'm going to also share a little story, which is that you need to be able to have skills that change over time, right? You need to be able to build those, and just like your story. And I think we did a study recently called the ETS Human Progress Report. And the Human Progress Report revealed a lot of things. 17,000 people across 17 countries. It really focused on the things that may impact people's prosperity. And one of the things that people are very I would say concerned about is the fact that the skill set that they have today may not be the skill set that they need in the future, right?
Ooh,
and so
yeah.
upskilling is the real future currency.
Would you just call it upskilling?
Upskilling
Yeah.
and reskilling, right? And people have FOBO, fear of being obsolete. 75% of people across the globe have that fear that they're not going to be able to keep up with the changing times and to be able to do that. And so assessments actually can help people do that if they're measuring skills such as technical skills, but also durable skills that are like your story, agility,
Yeah.
or resilience, or collaboration, or communication. And when you get personalized insights and feedback that you can work on, that you can change, then that feels like you're being able to keep up with the changing environment. But also not just show what you know. So maybe you knew how to do algebra and you did well in a cognitive test, but also what's your resiliency on
retention,
and in a skill set to be able to show not what you just know, but what you can do with that skill as well.
Well, and as we sit here at Cannes, and obviously we're focused on creativity, technology looms in every conversation. So Michelle, staying on what we just discussed, how can we prepare learners across the globe to be future ready? I assume that technology sits in the midst of that, right?
Yeah.
It's going to change the way we all do business through every sector at every level. What's the future of that?
As we recently at ETS have done both a business transformation and a brand transformation, but also now thinking about this innovation transformation that's needed to do that. And so we've had to redefine the category of where we play and where we can add value, really. And that is actually what we named the category, future readiness, right? And helping people thrive and adapt in that changing world. But I would say, yes, there's absolutely some amount of technical skill, digital literacy, AI literacy, all of those more technical skills. But then there's also these durable skills that are important, the ones I just mentioned. But then think about how our work life has changed. What if you can prove your skill of working remotely? What if you can prove your skill of leading disparate teams that are dispersed across the globe? These are new skill sets that you might need as a leader that you probably didn't learn in school.
You're right.
But you would want to be able to show, to an employer if you are the right person to be able to lead that team that's a real global team, or even leading diverse teams. Right.
Yeah,
right?
I've
very big skill.
Yeah, I've got a comment on that because, I think about, is there an ability to have AI have predictive analysis into knowing, because you talked about FOBO, that hit me hard because as a father, I think about the things that my kids are learning now, which looks very similar to what I learned back then, and thinking, is this going to be the skill set that they need to learn what they need to be able to move forward? Because you're right. I mean, AI is moving so fast that certain jobs that they're being prepped for in the schools aren't necessarily preparing them for the holes that will, or the areas that humans will start to flush towards. What if they can just get an AI bot to do exactly what I do? And I'm like, well, what am I left to do now? Now I have to look, what hole and what opportunities can I do to move towards?
I personally think that, humans have to be in the loop and sometimes on the loop, especially with our AI models. So we have a lot of AI engineers and psychometricians and learning scientists that work at ETS, and the models that we're creating with AI to help you understand that are critically important. I'll give you a real example. We have this app. It's for free because we're mission based. Out on the App Store, it's called Authentic. And it's really an app that helps you, gives you insights about your communication skills. That could be in a lot of different use cases, but we've used it for job interviews in this use case. So it uses Gen AI. You type in, I want to be SVP of marketing. And Gen AI will come back with, here are a couple of questions you might get asked in an interview. You record yourself on the answer, and then we use multimodal AI to come back and tell you, your context of your answer was, here or there, your rate of speech, your eye contact, all sorts of things that give you personalized insight to say, wow, how could I do that better? How could I communicate that better?
Yeah.
But think about all the use
practice,
cases.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the repetition.
That
Yeah.
absolutely
It is.
goes into the repetition, the
Yeah.
10,000 times. Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
yeah, no, the repetition, I think,
Yeah.
is any skill set I've ever learned in my life, and I think all of us, it's through repetition. I think a lot of people bail out before they see the fruits of their labor. They're going, hey, I'm at the 3,000 hours or 4,000 hours. This thing just isn't working out. They never see it through,
Right.
and they lose the equity that they were building.
And think if you had an AI coach
Yeah.
that was helping you along the way with that.
Well, and I want to build on that, Akbar. I want to ask you, organizations, business leaders, and public figures can use their platforms to help address issues of access and opportunity.
Yeah.
I know that you use yours for that. But in your view, as an advocate and champion, what are some of the most significant challenges hindering access to education and upward mobility?
Well, outside of the bureaucracy and all of the, the things and hurdles that you have to jump, I think it just really comes down to knowledge and the ability to want to help those. Like, the best of us must help the rest of us. And so I think when we identify areas that need help, we go in and help, no different than we would help in any other situation. You look at, we're here at this massive, festival, and there are so many agencies out here looking to help
Yes.
companies that have holes in the way they, market their company, and they say, hey, look, we can come in and assist, and here's how it's done. And I think the same thing can be done to those who have been locked away from these types of access, because that's where the biggest holes are. There's a lot of stuff that have systemically been built into a system. I tell my son this all the time. He's grown up with way more access than I had. And I was telling him, I went to a school where I was not even allowed to take my books home. We would only get copies. And I said, Xerox. He goes, Xerox, what is that? I said, don't worry about it, they're copies. But we took copies, but I didn't even have the opportunity to get context of the entire story, because I was only given a certain amount because of lack of paper and lack of school books, and that stunted my ability to learn all that I could learn in that subject.
Well, and I'm sure it did not allow you to be fully curious.
Yeah, right.
Right? It was piecemeal. And continuing on that, as we think about the future, right? Again, we could all think back to the past, but let's motivate ourselves towards the future. What skills do you think are needed, and how can education play a role in that success? What does that look like for you?
To me, it's real simple. It's not even complicated. I think it's the desire to want to learn, and being able to encourage kids, encourage people, no matter where you are in your life, encourage people to be able to move past fear, because on the other side of fear is something magical. I think the one thing that stops anyone is the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being able to learn something new, the fear of, time is running out, something is passing. There are all these different fears that we tell ourselves. So I think that has a lot to do with, even in the mental health space, like being confident and sure of yourself, because the one thing I know for sure, we're all capable of learning something. What is that something?
Yeah.
That's what helps to move, the skill set that helps to move forward. So it's so vague and so vast, right? How do you kind of pinpoint? Everyone is going to be different. So I think I start back with the person inside.
Well, it's practice.
Yeah.
Follow your dream.
Right.
And don't be afraid.
Right.
There's something for everyone,
Right.
right? So, Michelle, the concept of lifelong learning, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
We know that Gen Alpha is the first generation that is expected to live to 100. So we're all going to have to
Wow.
reinvent ourselves. 14 and not born yet, life expectancy 100. Talk about the concept of lifelong learning. We know it's not new, but I'm sure it may be newly relevant. What is an essential part of lifelong learning for today? And for example, how can we provide access and opportunity that is more equally distributed?
First of all, I think one of the skills that are going to be most essential for that lifelong learning, and 100 does seem like a long time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like to live to 100 if
Yeah.
it's good quality years.
Exactly.
But think about how in the past, life, or even now, right? Life is your education, your work,
Yep.
retirement.
Yeah.
Right? Those are three distinct chapters. And when you're living 100 years, that might be multiple chapters, and it might re-loop back to needing to
That's right.
have more education, to upskill, reskill. Maybe you take new career paths. So I think the skill that's going to be most critical is curiosity, and wanting to continue to learn. And to come back to our math story, like I mean, I was a mechanical engineer by training and by schooling, now turned marketer. As my husband says, I turned to the dark side, but I don't think so. But I still need math, right? And I still need to do problem solving, but in a different way and in a different application. And I think if you're not curious to find out how you utilize your skills, whether they're those technical skills or those durable skills in new situations, I can't imagine life is going to be very fun to live that long. But the access question, I think, is really important too. Again, going back to this same study, the ETS Human Progress Report, we found that there's many barriers to access. Some are financial, some are just opportunity. And there are certain groups like women, older generation, and those that live in rural environments that have much less access. And so we need to figure out ways to change that. Otherwise, upward mobility is not going to be possible for all.
Yeah, you said something that reminded me of a conversation I was having at dinner with a gentleman, CEO of a company, and he gave me some statistic. I can't verify the statistic, but something about being, after you get over the age of 30, the curiosity starts to go down. You get set into your ways in work. You get set into your ways with family, and people stop reading and educating themselves and moving themselves forward. It's very simple just to say, hey, this is my job. I'll do my job. I know the cadence of my workplace, but do I have curiosity to learn about building a stage, or curiosity about building a home, or curiosity about other things outside of just your 9 to 5?
Well, and to build on that, that's why we do think these skill-based assessments are so important for individuals. But then think about bigger groups, governments, employers, even communities. If you're able to bring some of that to an aggregate level, say for the CEO, and he knew that there was a deficit of a certain skill set in his employee base, he could go and work to change that so that his talent base is upskilled, reskilled, continues to have that curiosity or whatever it is.
How do you even know that you're interested in something? Because I'm thinking about that. I'm just going through in my head and thinking like, how would you even know when you're interested? Because maybe there's an opportunity that he's starting to create, but I'm like, I don't know if I could even do that. Again, that goes back to that
fear.
confidence and the fear. Like, I don't even know. So I won't even pursue it because I don't even believe that I can do it.
So think about the future being less about what you have proven yourself to do and more about a job fit based on skills. And those could be technical skills, but they also could be these durable skills. What if collaboration was the key skill that might be needed for that job, right?
Yeah.
And you are somewhere else in the organization and you don't have anything to do with that division, but you are an excellent collaborator. What could you bring to that?
A lot,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I was born to collaborate. Yeah, I grew up in a team environment. That's a skill set that I know how to collaborate.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of analogies between sports and these durable skills as well.
Well, we could talk for hours.
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation. I don't want to stop.
So, unfortunately, our time has come to an end.
They're cheering for us out here, though. Do you hear them?
So I just wanted to say, Akbar, Michelle, thank you so much for our talk today. Curiosity, keep it front and center. Thank you.